So this is part 10, the scheduled and tribal areas, covering two articles, Article 244 and 244A. Now the purpose of creating this separate part for scheduled and tribal areas is to protect the culture, the language, the script, the overall orientation of tribal areas. Okay, so certain rights are provided to them under this part, which includes the fifth and the sixth schedule. We will be learning about the fifth and the sixth schedule today, and we will also be learning about the autonomous powers, administrative powers given to them in the form of a council called Autonomous District Council. So we will be learning about these three elements inside this part 10. Once we finish the lecture on part 10 of the Indian Constitution, you will be able to learn why this special constitutional provision has been given to the tribal areas. The name of the part 10 itself is Scheduled and Tribal Areas. It was given to the tribal areas to protect their tribal land, to preserve their customs and traditions, to protect their language and culture, to prevent exploitation of their resources, and also to promote socio-economic development and balance tribal autonomy with national integration. To be a part of India, integrated, but also to have a certain level of autonomy that protects them. That's what scheduled and tribal areas entails. Okay. Now, this is the constitutional framework of Part 10. Part 10 teki contain kure Article 244 and Article 244A. Inside Article 244, we have Article 244.1, which is a fifth schedule, and 244.2, which is a sixth schedule. And then we have Article 244A. Okay, we will be learning about these two articles and the details inside these articles. And so, the fifth and sixth schedule are two different constitutional models for tribal administration, and you will learn why it's unique for some states and different for other states. Now, 244.1, okay, 244.1, fifth schedule areas. Now, these fifth schedule areas are areas declared by the president to be a schedule area, and once that area is declared a schedule area, that area will be protected. Okay, that area will be protected. They will be given certain rights, and they form a council called Tribal Advisory Council, which aids and advises the governor of that particular state in which the schedule area is. So these are the 10 states under fifth schedule. Okay, I've mentioned earlier that fifth schedule and sixth schedule, these are mentioned in a separate list. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10, 11, 12. I mentioned to you guys that 11th schedule is the panchayat and 12th schedule is the municipalities. So Constitution itself doesn't contain all these details. Okay, the Constitution will only mention that the parliament has a right to, the president has a right to declare a schedule areas and so forth. But whatever names are included here, it will be included in the schedule, not the Constitution. The schedule was created for convenience purpose, okay, to expand on the Constitution, but not to make the Constitution too bulky. So these details will be mentioned in the schedule, but the rights, the legal constitutional rights are derived from the Constitution, Part 10, 244.1 article. Okay, so these are the 10 states under the fifth schedule: Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh. You will find that there is not a single northeastern state. Okay, so there's a reason. Northeast states can garner the sixth schedule gonna digna sedangan. Okay, so we will learn about that in the next slide. So these are the 10 states under fifth schedule areas, and what power they have is that they can form a tribal advisory council. A tribal advisory council will be formed, which we will learn about in the next slide. So as you can see, the Tribal Advisory Council is a constitutional body established under the fifth schedule of the Constitution to advise the governor on matters concerning the welfare and advancement of scheduled tribes. To advise, okay? It is not binding on the governor to accept the advices given to him by the Tribal Advisory Council. The Tribal Advisory Council, as the name suggests, is just advisory in nature. So fifth schedule states the union protects them, but it is up to the union to do whatever it wants. It doesn't give much power to Tribal Advisory Council. So these 10 schedule areas have very little power compared to the tribal areas within the Northeast India. There are 4 states that come under the 6th schedule. The powers that they have are much more autonomous than the states under 5th schedule. Okay, so in the Tribal Advisory Council, the second point, every 5th schedule state having schedule areas, the governor must constitute a Tribal Advisory Council. For every state, all these 10 states, it is mandatory for the governor to constitute a Tribal Advisory Council. Okay, now in these 10 states, only certain areas are considered schedule area, right? Not the entirety. The entirety of Andhra Pradesh is in tribal. Telangana, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, the majority of the people in Maharashtra are non-tribals. Only few areas of these 10 states are considered schedule areas, and in those schedule areas, Tribal Advisory Council is constituted. Okay, and third point is another additional condition that says that in a state having scheduled tribes but no scheduled areas, so if some states have scheduled tribes but they are not included in the 5th schedule outside of Northeast, okay, outside of Northeast, don't think about Northeast, rest of India, if they have scheduled tribes but they don't have scheduled areas, the president may direct a Tribal Advisory Council to be established. Okay, so after such a direction, the governor constitutes the Tribal Advisory Council. The governor cannot just establish a Tribal Advisory Council in areas that are not considered scheduled areas. It is only the president that may, using his power, establish a Tribal Advisory Council if necessary. So the composition, top right, maximum 20 members in the Tribal Advisory Council, and nearly 3/4 must be scheduled tribe MLAs. So within that state, if supposing say one state has 100 MLAs, now nearly 3/4 must be scheduled tribes, which means 3 out of 4. So 75 seats must be scheduled tribe MLAs. The rest can be non-tribal MLAs. Okay, in the Tribal Advisory Council, as much as possible, nearly 3/4 must be scheduled tribe MLAs. And these are the functions. They will advise on tribal welfare. They will protect the land. They will regulate the money lending practices and tribal development. So this money lending regulation was specifically added to help control private money lending. Okay, private money lending. A lot of people acquired a lot of interest over time, and then they were unable to pay, which affected the economy of the tribals there. So they added this money lending regulation, the Tribal Advisory Council, and then for tribal developments, various developmental plans will be, but whatever it may be, okay, whatever they do, everything is up to the governor to decide in the end. So they do not have the kind of autonomy that the states under 6th schedule has. Okay, so next we will learn about the 6th schedule. So these are the functions of the Tribal Advisory Council. Land protection, advice on tribal welfare, advice to the governor. Land protection, which is up to the governor to accept or reject. Money lending regulation, which is up to the governor to accept or reject. And tribal development, which is up to the governor to accept or reject. Now we have Article 244(2), 6 schedule areas. Okay, so the states covered are Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. So the purpose of creating the 6th schedule is the high degree of tribal autonomy. Now in the rest of the states outside of Northeast, tribal population is not as intense in terms of the degree to which the tribal population is dominant. It's not too dominant outside of Northeast, but in Northeast, majority are tribals. And then the intensity of tribal population, the way in which they demand, their lifestyle, everything necessitated creation of a separate schedule, the 6th schedule, for the protection and autonomy of the tribal areas in these 4 states. Okay, but another question is Nagaland too has tribal population, right? Why is it not included? And Manipur too has a tribal population. Why is it not included? So there are lots of issues. Okay, there are lots of confusions as well. Nagaland is not included because, first of all, we were once under Assam. We were once under Assam, and under that Assam, we were once under Assam. After which we got our own separate district in the year 1963, right? So Assam before that, we were minorities, but after we got the statehood, now the tribals are majority here in the state, so they do not need protection under 6th schedule. Whereas in Assam, tribals kind of minority as a Tripura minority as a Mizoram the minority as a, but Meghalaya the tribals can majority as a. So yet confusion ekta ase. So this rule doesn't apply to Meghalaya. Now there are certain demands made by the minorities in Meghalaya saying that the autonomous councils, the 6th schedule, they should be removed. Okay, now this is another issue. What can we say, right? What can we say? Now, Meghalaya did it was because of a unique political situation. Back then, Shillong the ekta happening jaga ekta thakiside. It was a commercial hub. The Bengalis, everyone resided in Shillong during the British era. It was one of the most developed and well protected districts in the northeast. So when the 6th schedule was introduced, they felt the need to protect the tribals of Shillong, but eventually Shillong, the tribal population, they become too overpowered, and so now it's not that necessary for them to be included in the 6th schedule, but they still are included in the 6th schedule. So Meghalaya is one unique case, but the rest of the 3 states, minorities are safe. Okay, the tribals. Assam do apni kami jane non-tribals kami bishi ase, tribals kam kumti ase. So they have their own self-government, okay, which the 5th schedule states do not have. We will learn about that. This is the autonomous district council created under the 6th schedule. All the tribals recognized under the 6th schedule, the 4 states, and then they divided the different tribal people, and these tribal people can create their own autonomous district council. Okay, it's very similar to the demands made by the Easterns, ENPO, the Frontier Naga Territory. We will also have our own, if that comes into being, we will have our own autonomous council, and we will have certain ajigali do budget kuile do real lahat first I don't know, so by virtue of him being the chief minister, by virtue of him being the finance minister, but certain subjects are demanded by ENPO for funds to be directly given, transferred from the center to the eastern areas. Kile real lahat de pui chaile do olop na pokite olop thali na pungje ito garne direct funding garne mon request kure ase. So that's the main crux of Frontier Naga Territory. Okay, now in this autonomous district council be similarly with the same level there ase certain subjects down the digina ase, rights kana, forest kan hulibe, electricity, roads and so forth. Certain subjects are given to them, and other subjects they have autonomy to create rules, they have autonomy to make regulations, and then collect levy taxes and so forth. Okay, you will be learning in detail when we study the Northeast separately, but these are the powers given to them. Now in Assam, we have the Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council, which is very nearby, Karbi Kan. We also have the Dima Hausa Autonomous Council. We have the Bodoland Territorial Council. Meghalaya dedo Khasi, Chantia, Garo Hills Autonomous District Council. Okay, now Khasi kando beshi dominant asido. So ajigale kunba kando goe tan Autonomous District Council to nalage, you know. And we have the Tripura and Mizoram. Tripura, they're the only one. Tripura Tribal Areas Autonomous District Council. In Mizoram, Chakma, Lai, Mara. Okay, Chakma, Lai, Mara. So Chakma, Lai, Mara, these are minorities, okay, in the state of Mizoram, and they face a lot of discrimination. If you read the news, you will learn that they are discriminated very much. So they needed it, they deserved it. But for Meghalaya, not so much. There might be some changes in the future, but as of now, these are the autonomous district councils created in every state. Karbi Anglong Autonomous Council will be, this council will regulate the affairs of the tribal people that are Karbis, roads, electricity, forests, and so forth. Tahange subjects digina ase. So utu Karbi area te utu autonomous district council ra utu one sob regulate kuro, taxes can be tanda collect kuro, aro government ke submit kuro kan kuro. Chutu mudu rules and regulations tanda banawa and so forth. Okay, so that's what the autonomous district council is. A little bit of autonomy to regulate the affairs of the tribal people. Now a comparison. I've already made the comparison, but as you can see, scheduled areas, tribal areas. Okay, very two important distinction. Fifth schedule though, scheduled areas as a for the tribals, but it is considered a scheduled area. Okay, schedule. Fifth schedule la scheduled area as a whereas sixth schedule garne the tribal areas go there. Our fifth schedule we have the tribal advisory council, autonomous district council. And we have the governor's regulations, right? The TSC is created by the governor, and the TSC is advisory in nature. The governor doesn't have to listen to the TSC if it does not wish to. Okay, so very limited autonomy, but in the sixth schedule, they have legislative, judicial, and taxation powers. So they have greater autonomy. Please go through it once. So in the legislative powers, they can make laws related to land ownership and transfer of land, and they can also make laws on use of forests, and they can also make laws on village administration, appointment of village chiefs and headmen, inheritance of property, marriage, divorce, kande. Legislative powers as a legislate means to make laws, right? And in the they also have judicial powers. They can establish village courts. They also decide disputes related to marriage, divorce, and tribal customs and so forth. Okay, so they also have the taxation powers, which is the financial powers. They can collect certain taxes, tolls. They can levy. They can demand fees. They can prepare budgets, and they also receive grants from the central and state governments. Okay, the autonomous district councils, they receive grants from the central and state governments. So these are the powers that they have. Now coming to Article 244A. Article 244A, nothing much to study here, because it gives the right to create autonomous state, not district council, okay, autonomous state like FNT. FNT is considered an autonomous state, not an autonomous district council. Okay, so autonomous state is a state within a state that has a certain level of autonomy. So in Article 244A, it says that an autonomous state can be created in Assam. Okay, in Assam with a legislature, with council of ministers and so forth. But so far, no autonomous state has been created under Article 244A. There is no autonomous state within Assam. So Article 244, nothing much to study here. It was inserted by Second Constitutional Amendment Act of 1969. 244A, autonomous state can be created in the state of Assam, specifically for Assam, okay, not for anyone, for Assam. So no autonomous state has been created under Article 244A. Now I explained to you earlier, Nagaland and Manipur, Assam, Tripura, Meghalaya and Mizoram are part of the 6th schedule, but Nagaland and Manipur are not included in the 6th schedule. Now Nagaland though, it is protected under Article 371A, and like I said earlier, it was part of Assam, it was a minority, but once it became a state, it became a majority. It no longer needed protection. And it is also protected under Article 371A, so 6th schedule not required, okay? And for Manipur, it also has protection through Article 371C, which I've explained that a few days back, and it has a committee, okay, kind of like an autonomous district council, but with lesser powers, Hill Areas Committee, okay. So under state law, it has an autonomous district council that doesn't have much power, that doesn't have too much power. It doesn't have legislative power. So majority of the decisions are made by the state government, which is why they're complaining right now, saying that they also need to be included in the 6th schedule. They have been making the demand for many years. Okay, they've been making the demand for many years. Now Article 371A versus 371C. We have Article 371A is for Nagaland. It protects the customary law, religious practices, land and resources. Parliament's law requires state approval. Okay. Whereas for Article C, Manipur, Hill Areas Committee going to act the committee from Ruo, and then governor's special responsibility to make sure that he listens to the demands of the Hill Areas Committee, but it is up to the discretion of the governor whether to accept or reject. Again, very less power compared to Article 371A. Okay, so it's simply for the protection of Hill tribes with very less power. It doesn't have legislative powers. Whereas here in Article 371A, we have legislative powers, right? We can create our own customary laws, we can protect it, we can enforce it, and so forth. Okay. We even have our own court, right? The Tobashi Court, appointed by the state government, that decides disputes related to our custom. Anything, modern cases, legal cases, everything will be handled by the High Court, the District Court. But anything related to our customs, they are handled by the Tobashi Court. And the Tobashi Court is established in DC office. It is usually attached to the DC office in every district, even in Dimapur, even in Longleng, even in Mokshung. Okay, it's attached to the Deputy Commissioner's office. Now, Manipur Autonomous District Council. These are the districts, and these are just additional informations, okay, which are not mentioned in the Constitution, but for your general knowledge, in it, notice like explain Gordias, let you have an idea about the issues, about their demands, and so forth. Now, Manipur is not included in the 6th schedule, okay, but they have an autonomous district council. Like I mentioned, they have their own autonomous district council. The only difference is that the autonomous district councils of 6th schedule were created by the union government. Okay, the powers are derived from the union government, whereas for the Manipur Autonomous District Council, they are created by state law. Ito karne do district council iman power do diya nai. Okay, union do state la power lugina do autonomous district council ko ho lubi ko. Lubi state government na tayo nijor la power ni kile diyo na. So iniga ekta situation ase. Yade. It is created by state law, it has very limited powers, and it is dependent on state government. The state government can make changes anytime it wants. So it's kind of like autonomy, but without any autonomy. Which is why they're demanding 6th schedule status. Okay, it continues. So these are the 6 districts that have autonomous district council: Chantel, Churachandpur, Kangpokpi, Senapati, Tamenlong, Ukhrul. Okay. So these are the important constitutional facts that you need to know. Please take a look at it.